Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, I wanted to cover news out of KPMG about a new tech innovation lab that they launched in London. And what KPMG is going to be launching here is something called Ignition, which is a technology, innovation, insights, and collaboration hub. And this is going to be in London in the firm's Canary Wharf headquarters. And this location will be 28,000 square feet of physical space. And this is similar to other KPMG Ignition hubs. And typically when KPMG does this, they use about 30,000 square feet. And this isn't necessarily big news, but it's important because this is an important offering that KPMG has been working on for a number of years. And it's also a good way to illustrate how important technology is to the Big Four accounting firms. But it's also important because this is a Big Four accounting firms and the way they're selling things in the future. Because these technology hubs aren't necessarily filled with a bunch of things that people can use, but they're nice facilities to sell to clients because these aren't just internal places. People actually bring clients in here and try to impress them with these renovated workspaces and VR goggles while they're selling them these technology tools, because the main purpose of these Ignition labs is to sell technological solutions to clients. And KPMG's chief digital officer had the following to say: Ignition gives us a world-class platform with which to support delivery of ever-increasing digital transformation for us and for our clients, and puts our technologists at the center of complex challenges at a time of great national and global changes coming at pace. Whatever the pandemic does next, we are keeping our new ways of working, and where the solutions for creative collaboration don't exist, we'll pioneer our own, end quote. And the head of the Ignition at KPMG in the UK had the following to say: The COVID-19 pandemic has supercharged the Ignition journey, accelerating plans that were already in place to transform the definition of collaboration from a mainly physical experience to a powerful blend of physical, virtual, and hybrid. Technology allows us to continuously learn, demonstrate agility, and do things differently. We are constantly developing fresh, collaborative approaches that bring powerful ways to work with clients and colleagues, both in the Ignition Center itself and beyond its walls. And KPMG doesn't only have this in London. They have Ignition Centers located in Vancouver, Chicago, New York, Denver, San Francisco, Amsterdam, Paris, Zurich, Madrid, Frankfurt, Tel Aviv, Riyadh, Lagos, Abu Dhabi, Sydney, Melbourne, Tokyo, Nanjing, Seoul, Hong Kong, and Singapore. So you see they're increasing the number of these, and they're increasing them in places where they have lots of clients. And typically when you go to these centers, you have to schedule time with your client because people are taking multiple clients there all the time. And you have to remember that the Big Four accounting firms, they focus on different parts of each company. So you can take somebody from the tax department in there, somebody from the finance department, someone from the human resources department. So you can take a client and people from the client there multiple times because there's multiple parts of an organization that you're selling to. So these things are very interesting, and it's a new way to sell to clients, because the main way the Big Four accounting firms used to sell to clients was they would go to their offices and pitch to them. But now you have an excuse for your client to leave their office and come to one of these fancy innovation centers. And it's an immersive experience because not only do they get to hear you pitch your sales pitch, but they also get to see the technology itself. Where typically in the past, you didn't see the technology until it was implemented in your organization or until the Big Four accounting firms got their boots on the ground in your organization. And if you go to some of KPMG's Ignition web pages, now the website for Ignition is very confusing. And I'll show that on the YouTube video for this. So if you're listening to the podcast, make sure to go to our YouTube and check it out. And I'll show me navigating around one of the Ignition websites. And I'll be looking at the Ignition websites in the US because it gets very confusing because they have Ignition, which is a physical space, but in there they also have things like innovation labs, something called You Collaborate, and also some of the links on the websites don't even work when they talk about the people they've partnered with. They have case studies in there, and they have the different technologies they're using. They're using data and analytics, experience design and engineering, elevating business in the cloud, and this is their cloud solution. They have human resources transformation. They have KPMG Spectrum, tax transformation and technology business management. So there's a lot of capabilities that they have, and that's what they call it in one of these Ignition websites. And they also have partnerships because a lot of Big Four accounting firms partner with different companies. And the reason they partner with different companies is multiple reasons, so that they can focus on one technology, but also those partnerships are typically their clients. And some of the partnerships that KPMG has is Aptio, Coupa, IBM, Oracle, ServiceNow, and Workday. And these are all pretty popular solutions. ServiceNow is definitely becoming more popular. They've done really well in this current COVID market. But these are all solutions that you need to become familiar with. So if you're interested in working at KPMG or just in the Big Four in general, I would recommend that you check out KPMG's Ignition Labs and check out similar websites on the other Big Four accounting firms' websites. And another good thing about these websites is if you're not familiar with these technologies, you can take a look at some of the case studies, because as they help clients out, they take the best services that they've done and they get case studies about the solutions that they built for the clients. So it'd be good to go onto the websites and review those case studies so that you can become more familiar with what these technologies do, but also what each Big Four accounting firm does in this space. And you can go through KPMG's websites and not only see the locations, but the solutions and what each of these sites does. But they're all pretty similar. They're all going to be 30,000. They're all going to be brand new and cool looking. It makes it look like KPMG is this amazing place. And don't get me wrong, all the Big Four accounting firms do this. But just because this looks like this at KPMG and the other Big Four might have similar things, that doesn't mean like it's going to look like where you're going to work in the Big Four. Because where people actually work in the Big Four accounting firms versus these nice little spaces that they build. And they build these spaces not only for technology centers, but also to recruit people. And they take recruits to these types of places as well. But that doesn't mean that you're going to be working in these types of places day to day. But this is where they sell to clients. And this is all also where they take recruits so that they can get them to work at the Big Four accounting firms. But that's the update for today. Subscribe to this podcast to get future updates and support us through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes to this. Any donation there helps. And also, if you can't help us financially, then go to our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and like this video on there. Thanks for listening.